Let's do this.
All right, guys, you know what it is. World of Matchups is back, just like we promised we would be, bringing you the first half of our NFL mock draft. Today, we're going to do 1 through 16 of where we think everything is going to land here in late April. Who's going where, why, trades up, trades down. And joining me to do so is my A1 from day one, producer extraordinaire. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in Mr. Spencer the Wiz. What's going on, bro?
No, nothing much. Just getting ready for the draft, and things are starting to settle a little bit. Finally, Justin Fields gets traded. I don't think we've talked about that since that happened.
No.
And it doesn't change anything, I guess, but it does solidify things. Everything feels like it's starting to get a little bit more solid now for some reason.
Yeah, the dust is definitely settled. Big shout out to
Yeah.
Spencer the Wiz for, not only calling the place where Justin Fields was going to go, but he pretty much called the pick. I mean, it's a conditional pick, but I mean, that was spot on. I didn't think it was going to happen. Spencer said it and nailed it. So flowers go to Spencer the Wiz on that. Guys, this is the best time of year. I mean, I'm not even looking at baseball anymore. I mean, the NFL is 24/7, 365. And if you haven't recognized it as being the best sport by now, you need to get on that train. And it all starts and ends with the NFL draft. You know what it means when we hear this sound. We are on the clock. Spencer, let it rip with the first pick. World of Matchups and Blue Milk Boys Gaming takes.
This one's straightforward now after Justin Fields was taken or traded away. And of course, that's going to be Caleb Williams. I mean, I kind of knew it from the start. They weren't going to keep Justin Fields. I talked about this a little bit, like pretty much during the offseason, but there are times when you have the number one overall pick where it doesn't matter who the GM is, who the head coach is. There have been Patrick Mahomes comparisons between these two guys. Fair or not, I think in some places fair, like in terms of what I could see out of him, his play style. And when that happens, it's too late because the NFL is about making money. And Caleb Williams is going to be very marketable. He's going to bring a lot of attention. And Justin Fields just wasn't doing that at the end of the day. You have a chance to get a franchise-altering quarterback. No one knows it'll work out, but you got to keep firing if you can. You can't just take Marvin Harrison Jr. here. I'm sorry, this is the objective right pick for the Bears, through and through.
Yeah, after, playing tennis with it for the last couple weeks, I am in full agreement. I mean, they had to get rid of Justin Fields, although I thought he would stay. Getting a guy like Keenan Allen for a fourth-round pick was an absolute felony, and he's a perfect wide receiver, with the blanket Cole Kmet in the middle to help a franchise quarterback coming in with Caleb Williams. My only concerns about Williams is what's between his ears and his dad. There's kind of a little LeVar Ball to what's going on there, but there's no doubting his talent. He showcased it this week. The guy should be a good pro. And I think, at the end of the day, my buddy Bears fan Corey, who I lean on for all my Bears intel, said it. You're not beating Patrick Mahomes with a top 5 quarterback. I mean, Brock Purdy played really well in the Super Bowl here, and they still lost. If there's a guy that has any comps to anything that what Mahomes can do, it's got to be the consensus number one pick in the draft. And sadly, they have helped out Caleb Williams more than they ever helped out Justin Fields, and I think this will make them a playoff team if everything breaks right.
I don't know about in their rookie season. I'd be pretty shocked to see that. I don't even know if I'm the biggest Eberflus fan, if I'm being honest with you. I'm not sure he's the coach that's going to be with Caleb Williams for a long time, but we'll see.
I don't like Eberflus either, but I do like what Ryan Poles is doing. Pick number 2.
This is interesting. For a long time, it felt like Drake May was the guy here, but considering who they have as their offensive coordinator, I actually don't think the fit's great, and I've been hearing a lot of news, whatever that's worth, but I am going to go ahead and say that they're going to take Jayden Daniels, the Washington Commanders, second overall. I think it works more with their scheme. I'm just not the biggest Jayden Daniels fan. I understand his talent, but he just doesn't have the arm talent, I feel, enough. He's got great instincts. He can lead the ball to kind of make up for it, but at the end of the day, there are going to be times where you got to do some pretty spectacular stuff and be able to throw it really hard down the field for a very special occasion. I just don't know if he has that kind of ability. Now it's going to be a high flying offense. He's going to utilize his legs a lot. They have a lot of great pieces. And he has Austin Eckler now too. So the more I think about it, the more I think that they are going to take him, and Drake May is going to fall to third. But yeah, it's kind of concerning. I don't know how well this is going to work out for the Commanders, but I do think that this is the pick they're going to make now.
Yeah, I disagree. I think the Commanders are going to take Drake May, and I don't think they're going to blink to do it. He's got the better arm. They need a franchise quarterback, man. You know what I mean? And they need a pocket passer franchise quarterback. Guys in this league are recognizing that that's what it takes. A pocket passer who can break down and run, not a running quarterback they can't throw. And so they do have weapons. Like you said, Austin Eckler is a nice safety valve, but it's been a while, if ever, since the Washington Commanders have had this kind of quarterback, this Friday Night Lights type quarterback. Have they ever had it? I mean, I think about their quarterbacks, Doug Williams, RG3s. I mean, they need a guy that can stand back there and deliver the ball downfield and take a hit. He's rising too, man. I mean, I don't dislike Jayden Daniels, but I'll tell you in a minute why I think he is going to go to the Patriots versus go here. I think just the more polished prospect here is Drake May, and they do have decent downfield weapons in Washington. They're not horrible, man. Scary Terry is good. Jahan Dotson is a good receiver, and so he needs to have somebody on that team that can get them the ball, and I think Drake May is the guy.
No, I could see that, and obviously, third overall easily goes to Drake May. This guy has a rocket for an arm, and if the worst thing about him is sometimes he misses passes, I can live with that all day because you just make the kid throw 100 passes after practice. It's just something like that. Like those just feel like something that I can like see in like him obtaining to become better. But
Yeah.
in terms of talent, and the kid's got a little bit of pizzazz to him. We talked about in our QB video. When I think of those things combined, I really like that. Now I think it's unfortunate that he goes. If he were to go to the Patriots, I think it would be unfortunate. I don't think there's any way they would pass him up, and I feel like the top three is impenetrable in terms of a trade. I don't think there is a package worth that any of these teams would take because they're so desperate for a quarterback. But yeah, I mean, the Patriots, I feel like are a mess. I don't think having a player coach is going to be good for them. I don't think that's what the team needs right now. The
Mm-hmm.
team lacks like the Raiders lack structure. I felt like I don't know, like when they brought in Antonio Pierce, and I think that was what did really well for them is that he kind of brought that together and kind of brought everyone there. But the Patriots don't have anything going for them. Like they should have gotten like an offensive mind. They should have changed things up a little bit. And I feel like they kind of went two steps backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Like Drake May, I don't know, man. I mean, Mac Jones had a great rookie season, and then he never looked good ever again. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with the Patriots organization. And I feel like Mac Jones' confidence is shot forever. I don't think he'll ever get a chance to start in the league again. I don't know if it would be ever that bad for Drake May, but I do think they could ruin his early years of development. I really feel like that.
Yeah, which is why I don't think he's going to go to the Patriots. You know what I mean? I think when you have a humongous shift like this in coaching from top to bottom, and they really don't have much, you have to give the fans something. And Jayden Daniels is going to be the one-man show in New England. That's why they're going to take him. He can run, he can throw, he'll give you the highlights, and they'll slowly build around him. I'm not even so sure that the New England Patriots should even get a quarterback here. But who are they going to get? You know what I mean? If they take Marvin Harrison, who's throwing him the ball? I mean, they are so far away right now that it almost hurts them to have this high of a pick. I mean, I might even consider trading out of the three if I'm New England. I mean, they have literally nothing. Now Bill is gone, rookie coach. It's a new day in New England, and it's not going to be a sunny one. And so I think that you just have to give the fans something to build on and hope for. And it all starts and ends with an electric quarterback, and then you build around him. I mean, can we name two receivers on the Patriots? You know what I mean? Who are the Patriots tight ends right now? I mean, they're all has-beens. I mean, what do they have? Literally, what do the Patriots have? They have Ramondre Stevenson. I mean, that's it. And a good defense. You're going to have to draft a quarterback here, and you're going to have to be the one that's going to have the pomp and circumstance and as much flash. And Drake May is more of a vanilla pocket passer, and so you're going to be stuck with Jayden Daniels here. It's not horrible. but I'm not expecting anything from the Patriots at all for at least 2 or 3 years. And if they win 3 or 4 games this year, I will be absolutely shocked. But Jayden Daniels is the pick from World of Matchups.
All right, yeah, and at number 4, this is where I see a lot of people having the Cardinals trade back. There's no
No
way
way.
they're
No
trading
way.
back from the spot. There's absolutely no shot in my mind that that ever happens. This is Marvin Harrison Jr. This is straightforward. This guy would be probably like a 1 or 2 overall pick in most years' draft. We just so happen to be in one of the hungriest QB drafts like of all time. Like there are like so many teams that need a starting quarterback, and the Cardinals need a wide receiver. I'm sorry, there's like they're not going to try to find value. This is a wide receiver one.
Yeah.
I mean, you're asking. I mean, this is kind of anything can happen. Like I kind of thought Jerry Jeudy was a for sure pick, and it kind of hasn't worked out. So I guess you never truly know. But this guy's on another level. I mean, he's the complete package. If it didn't work out, there's no way you can blame the Cardinals for this pick. This is a no-brainer. The number
Yeah.
one wide receiver in this year's draft, and he's competing against other wide receivers that would be wide receiver one in other years' drafts. That's how good Marvin Harrison Jr. is.
Yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, man. You know what I mean? Stop playing games here. Stop talking about trading out of this pick. You guys are out of your minds. You have the best wide receiver in the draft class fall to you at 4. You put the pick in now, weeks early. That's the guy you take. I don't want to hear anything else about this. This is not something that they're going to trade out of. They'd be stupid to do so. Kyler Murray and MHJ is a match made in heaven. He's the best wide receiver coming into the NFL. This is the guy that you want to pick. Stop playing with me, you guys, with these stupid mock drafts saying that the Jets are moving up to take this guy and the Cardinals are drafting out. You guys are out of your minds. This is the most polished receiver coming into the league with the most hype since Randy Moss. This is a slam dunk, and we're not talking about it anymore.
I think it's all smoke and mirrors. Now, this is where, in my opinion, the Chargers trade back 100% because, yes, while I like the receivers that are still on the board, I don't think that it's enough to be taken at this position. I know the Chargers are desperate, but I do think that you can find value later in the first round of the draft. I'm trying to do this like little trade here. I don't. It's not really letting me go. Oh, okay. I think it's just for 5. Um, in any case, it doesn't really matter. Oh, okay. So the Vikings are in the best position basically to get a quarterback here, and I think they go JJ McCarthy. Now, whether or not he deserves for this to happen, I don't know. All right, but I do know that they don't have a starting quarterback. They traded up in the first round to do this exact thing. And I just don't think the Chargers are incentivized enough to get a player here. I think that they're willing to trade back to 11 and take whatever wide receiver is left. I don't think Adunze will be there, but I do think there's other wide receivers that can start for the Chargers next year because they have a lot of work to do in the wide receiver room. One receiver is not going to do enough to make this team good.
Interesting. I have a lot of thought process behind this one. I've seen a lot of people do something similar to what you just mentioned as far as the Vikings moving up. But I think if the Vikings were smart, they would stand pat and they'll still be able to land JJ McCarthy, as will be seen in the rest of my draft between picks number 5 to when they pick at 11. I have the Chargers taking Malik Neighbors. I just cannot see them not taking a wide receiver here of this guy's caliber, especially after letting Keenan Allen go for a bag of peanuts and a pepperoni pizza. You have to give Justin Herbert help. You cannot let him end up kind of like Patrick Mahomes ended up last year with a C-plus wide receiver room because they literally don't have the defense that can support that, nor the special teams. So you have to now give the LA Chargers some hope because the cupboard it's been raped bare. They're totally gutting the team, and they really, I mean, is Gus Edwards is your draw? Come on. I mean, I do understand what Coach Harbaugh is doing, but the splash that I think the Chargers are hoping to make in the offseason is going to happen through the draft, whereas a lot of people, it happened during free agency. And so like I said a couple weeks ago, MHJ is 1A, Neighbors is 1B. Some people are talking about how Neighbors has flipped and passed him. I just see an electric weapon like him not being able to fall, despite the fact that some people are going to come calling with nice incentivized packages. Don't play games with this kind of talent. Just take the guy and stand on business with him because he is your wide receiver one of the future. Quentin Johnson is an absolute bum. You cannot go into this season in the AFC West with zero firepower at wide receiver. And maybe there's some decent wide receivers down the line, but I'm not willing to rest on the Adonai Mitchells and the Xavier Worthies later when I could have Malik Neighbors now.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that I don't think there's any pressure on the Chargers this year. In fact, I think they're just going to play it low. They shed a lot of salary cap this year. I think they're just going to try to accumulate picks and go after it next year.
Yeah,
It's really starting to feel that way for me. But yeah,
possible.
I mean, if this happens, I think the Vikings are so pressured to get up at this spot. I think it for sure happens. And I think the Giants were going to go after JJ McCarthy if they fell to him. I don't think they would ever trade up for him. But because of the situation that they're in now, I don't think they have any incentive to trade back. I think they go Malik Neighbors here. Easily the
Giants.
wide receiver too. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Giants. They need
Yeah.
wide receiver help. Daniel Jones, you can say what you want about him. The guy has never had anybody half decent throwing him like to throw the ball to. I mean, he really has never had a top 15 wide receiver on his team, not even close. And that's a problem. I mean, quarterbacks look good when their wide receivers are good. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. The only like receiver-proof quarterback is like Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. Everyone else needs a good offense, to look good. And this gives them an opportunity. The quarterback that they may have liked, JJ McCarthy, didn't fall to them, so they say, "All right, we'll take a swing next year. We'll get rid of Daniel Jones." But at the very least, we have wide receiver 2 in this year's draft.
Yeah, and that thought process is a good one. I had a very similar thought process around the Giants coming into the draft, but then I thought about it. I'm like, dude, you just spent $160 million on a quarterback that got hurt. I mean, he wasn't stinking up the joint; he got hurt. So, are you really going to now draft another quarterback early? I think it could be the type of thing where the Giants fall back and wait, and maybe Bo Nix is there later. I have them taking Rome Odunze, the Washington wide receiver. They need help. I know they already have a million wide receivers, but none of them are really flash, pop, go crazy wide receivers. Darren Waller's gonna retire. Big Blue fans are some of the most passionate fans in the world, and they deserve better. They're now hoping that Daniel Jones comes back healthy, and Mike Dable can give him a nice new big fast shiny toy to work with. I see Rome being a Giant without question if Malik Neighbors is already off the board.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. I think this one's pretty straightforward. I don't think anyone would be shocked by this. It looks like the Titans are kind of building themselves a little bit of a team here. And to do that, of course, you need an offensive line. There's a pretty clear number one offensive lineman, in my opinion, at least, and that's Joe Alt. Now, I don't think he's going to be like an all pro, but you're talking about a left guard that can pull and do run blocking and run all the way to the right side. And that's just athleticism you don't see very often from the left tackle position. He's not like an overwhelming dominant player. It's not like I forget who the Lions drafted a few years ago, and he was like a generational offensive lineman. It's nothing crazy like that. But this guy is a starting left tackle in the NFL, and that is rare. Like it is sometimes so hard to find a left tackle because it's such a coveted position. So if you're in position to grab one in the first round, whether or not he's an all-pro Hall of Famer or not, I feel like you got to do it, especially when you have a young quarterback like Will Levis. So you're really trying to gain some momentum with.
Absolutely. Joe Alt, we both agree. We've been talking about this guy for weeks. It's a slam dunk that he goes to Tennessee. I like what Tennessee is doing. They're helping their sophomore quarterback. They've gone out and got pieces. Last night they trade for Snead. Last year they draft Skoronski. The beef is where the game is won in the trenches. And if you cannot protect your quarterback in a national football league, you can't win, man. And Will Levis, while being a big, strong, Ben Roethlisberger comp type guy, you gotta protect the guy. And if you don't sign Joe Alt to a long-term deal eventually down the road, like, what are you doing? Draft this guy, pair him with Skoronski, and then move on. This is a slam dunk, resounding pick for the Titans, who, quite frankly, the way they're going about their business, man, they could sneak into the hunt. They are trying. They are really trying, and I see Joe Alt being a slam dunk pick going to them at 7.
Yeah, on to the Atlanta Falcons, and I've seen a lot of mocks put Dallas Turner here, but I'm sorry, man, I'm not a Dallas Turner fan. I wouldn't spend a top 10 pick on him if my life depended on it because the guy is just too raw, and that kind of goes into the number 2 defensive lineman, in my opinion, who's Byron Murphy II. And he's also a guy who I don't really feel is a top 10 pick. I just don't think he's good enough personally. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to take for them my favorite cornerback in this year's draft, and that's Quinyon Mitchell. I think that he reminds me a lot of Derek Stingley. And if you need a starting cornerback, this is a guy who I'd feel comfortable that I feel like he's going to be starting for at least 5 years for my team. I think you get a lot of value out of that at a top 10 pick, especially like once you get closer to 10.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm chalk here. I'm Dallas Turner. I think that when you have the SEC Player of the Year at 10 sacks, I mean, at this point, Atlanta has just been so pro offense and what they've done to mold and reshape their team in the offseason. It's all been offense. Kirk Cousins, Darnell Mooney. I mean, they've brought in everybody. Now they're going to go get their pass rusher. They're going to get their pass rusher of the future. The one thing that has always really plagued this team is that they really don't get after the quarterback like that. And that needs to change if they plan on turning some of these offensive pieces into W's in this league. And so I think Dallas Turner is a lock pick for them. I'm not so sure it's the right pick, but I mean, the guy did have a decent combine. Now, I mean, I'm not big on combine warriors, but he's a solid player. Yes, is he raw? But you can teach the things that he needs to learn. The NFL is a learning curve. A lot of rookies aren't expected to do much right away. So I don't think it's going to be the type of thing where they just throw him on the line and say, good luck, son. Kind of like, Tyree Wilson. Everybody thought that guy was going to come straight into the league and set the world on fire. FAU, Felike Uzama, the guy hardly touched the field. So it could be the type of thing we're going to grow and mold this kid. I just don't see them passing up on him. It comes from Bama to top it off, where they just grow pros. This is a good pick for them. Whether we like it or not, it remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, I mean, if it would go to this position, the whole Bears drafting receiver thing, in my opinion, is just fugazi because you have 2 starting wide receivers. You don't need to throw another one on there. You need to fill out your team a little bit more, at least in my opinion. Maybe I'm dead wrong, but if it was here, I think that they saw what the Texans did last year, and they get their quarterback and they get a franchise like defensive end. And I think they'd probably see the same thing in Dallas Turner. Like I said, I just think Dallas Turner is a little bit raw in terms of talent. He doesn't have the technique of even some of the other people in this year's draft, and that can get you buried in the NFL. And you got to be able to produce early on, and I feel like that's going to kill him. But the guy had a lot of production in college. He's from Alabama. Will Anderson just proved that what kind of the production level that can translate over. He's not as good as Will Anderson. That's for darn sure. That's the one thing at least I'll say here. But if he did fall that far, I think the Bears would take him. I don't think they would go wide receiver at all.
No, I don't think they would go wide receiver at all because they don't need to. Just kind of like the Atlanta Falcons, the Bears have retooled their entire offense as well. They're going to draft Caleb. You bring in Swift. You get Keenan Allen. I mean, they're ready to rock on offense. This is where you take a guy like Jared Verse, the edge from FSU. This guy has got unstoppable energy. That's the type of player that you want to see now on the Bears. You want that motor guy. Every team has one of these guys where the motor just doesn't stop. Kind of like Matt Milano before he got hurt. The guy just never stops. Nick Bolton, they just never stop. He just never stops. This guy might be a little bit smaller, but he's good with his hands. He's got unstoppable first break energy. He can get past bigger guys. They're going to look at this guy and say, if Dallas Turner is gone, this is the guy that we have to get. They got to get an edge rusher. You got to get – dude, they have not had a really prominent defensive player since they traded Khalil Mack. You have to get one of these guys, and I think Jared Verse is the guy. I mean, he got good strength, good combine. Yes, he's a little smaller, but this is the guy that you want to get. They don't need any more offensive players. You know what I mean? And those wide receivers aren't falling. Neighbors, Dunze, it should be a felony if those guys fall from the Bears at 9. There was a time where I thought that might happen. That time has passed.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets would love it if this happened, and truthfully, I could see it happening. I could see them like Rome Odunze falling to the Jets, and who they would easily take without blinking an eye. You know, he's wide receiver 3, and he wouldn't have to be wide receiver 1, which I think is so important on where he goes in this year's draft, because I think he's a complementary piece, kind of like a T. Higgins type of. Like, I don't know if T. Higgins could be wide receiver 1. Maybe I'm crazy for saying that, but regardless of the comparison, I think this guy's an ultimate wide receiver 2. I can't imagine a better spot in the top 10 for him other than the Jets, and the Jets wouldn't even take 10 seconds to draft this guy if he was still on the board at that time. They would run out there on the stadium and announce it themselves. I really believe that.
I like it. Don't think it'll be there, but I like it. I'm gonna throw a wrench into everyone's draft here and tell you who the Jets are taking. The Jets are going to make a splash here, and they're going to take Brock Bowers, tight end from Georgia, and I'm going to tell you why. The guy's got comparable skills to what I would probably say his NFL comp would be, maybe George Kittle. When you look at all the
I think it's
top teams in the NFL, they all got great tight ends. They got great tight ends, man. I mean, I like what Buffalo did last year, bringing in Dalton Kincaid. The Lions, they got Laporta. We already know about Travis Kelce. We already know about George Kittle. It's time for the Jets to jump in this because Aaron Rodgers likes a bigger body, and he's not going to be there forever. Their tight end room is absolute trash in New York, and they haven't had a red zone threat that can bring the ball in. Brock Bowers is an absolute stud. Now, could it be a little early to go get him? Maybe, but it more than fills a need. The Jets need somebody besides their ancillary pieces, the Mike Williams, who may not even play 5-6 games for them. You know what I mean? They got to have somebody that can get that ball in the end zone that can muscle people. And Brock Bowers is the pick. I think this is the perfect place for him to go. He was a beast at Georgia, bro. He was a man amongst boys. And I think that translates into the NFL quickly. Now, we all know that tight end is probably one of the hardest positions to play on the field. It doesn't always translate to, big-time stats and touchdowns right away. But this last year, man, that kind of broke that mold when you see what Laporta did, when you saw what Kincaid did. Brock Bowers could be that guy this year, and I think it's too good for the Jets to pass up.
Yeah, we're not too far off on our mocks.
No, not at all.
Because if the Chargers traded back, which I really do think they will, and they'd go back to 11, they would take Brock Bowers. This is a Harbaugh kind of guy, tough, and like you were talking about a little bit, I don't think there's any such thing as reaching in the NFL draft. There's only guys that you want. Who cares what people put somewhere else?
You take who you want.
Yeah, Brock Bowers, maybe he should have been 15 or 16. That kind of stuff doesn't matter. I think, when you go back and look at guys producing on the football field, you don't remember where they were drafted unless it was 1, 2, or 3. You're just they were drafted by this team.
It's kind of the same thing in fantasy football, I mean, it's you see a guy that you want and you go get that guy. I don't care what his ADP was. I can't tell you how many leagues I've won because I went and got the guy that I wanted because I had the crystal ball on him and he was 30 spots less in ADP than the chalk guy. It doesn't matter. And I think that's going to be the situation here, man. The Jets are going to be like, man, there's no way we can pass on this guy. It's an absolute need. And it's a stud player from a stud college. Lock him down, Jets. Just don't play with me. Next.
Yeah, wow, that takes us to the Denver Broncos. This is weird. This is a very weird position for them. There's not really a wide receiver worth taking in this position. They need a quarterback so bad. I'm telling you right now, and I really, truly, really believe this, there's no way that Michael Penix Jr. falls to the second round. I don't care what anyone says. These teams are like, are the Broncos just going to go into the next season without a quarterback? And they know the Raiders are drafting right behind them. I wouldn't be shocked. I'm telling you, I'm putting it in the ground right now. They're going to take Michael Penix Jr. Now, is Michael Penix Jr. technically a second round pick because of the injury history? Yes, but it's also not reality. Reality says that the Denver Broncos do not have a starting quarterback right now. I don't think Bo Nix is worth taking in that position. I think Michael Penix is that good. If you just gave me the draft profile of Michael Penix and you didn't show me the injury history, which again I know is part of it, but he's been healthy for 2 seasons and he's been the second best quarterback in college football since then. I just think that because the Raiders are right behind him, I think they're going to want to screw them over so badly, and I think they're going to want a franchise quarterback. So that's why I think they're going to overdraft Michael Penix Jr.
Boy, that is early. Not overly early for him, but that's kind of early, and I just don't see it happening. I can't envision a world where Michael Penix Jr. is the quarterback of the Denver Broncos at all. What I do see happening is I think this is where the Minnesota Vikings end up. I really do. I see the Minnesota Vikings trading up here, and this is where they get J.J. McCarthy. They're not going to be able to get into the top 5. They don't have enough. And you have a struggling, rebuilding team in the Broncos that just needs so much help that they would be willing to take the deal. The Chargers don't want to take the deal for 5, but I could definitely see a world where the Broncos take the deal and move just back enough to let the Vikings move up and take J.J. McCarthy, who, for all intents and purposes, I don't know why, is flying up draft boards.
I don't know, man. It's not my top pick.
I really don't. But the Minnesota Vikings are realizing that their team is being gutted. Madison is gone. There's not much left after Kirk Cousins took all their money. JJ is going to be really disgruntled here and be asking for a trade soon. I mean, it's a sad state of affairs. And since this team has just failed to be able to bring it home time after time after time again, they are also now realizing that we don't have a franchise quarterback. This is the year of the, wow, we realize we don't have a franchise quarterback. This is the year. And so they're going to move up and they're going to take J.J. McCarthy. That's going to be their quarterback of the future. They're going to get run heavy as usual because there's going to be not much in the way of downfield throws here. JJ is going to be the most disgruntled wide receiver in the NFL next year. He's definitely going to have Stephon Diggs disease. He's going to be complaining. He wants 30 to 34 million. This is a guy to turn down 30 million. So you can't tell me that this is going to be a match made in heaven. But again, the Vikings have to try. They have to try. They're watching the Chiefs with a franchise quarterback. They're watching the Chargers with a franchise quarterback. They're watching the Bengals with a franchise quarterback. They're watching the Jaguars with a foreign franchise quarterback. Now that Kirk Cousins has said, I'm done with you, I squeezed everything out of you, there's nothing left for them to do except try. I just think they're going to try with the wrong guy and move up and take J.J. McCarthy, who to me is nothing more than a glorified game manager at the collegiate level, and it will be the same at the NFL level. But hats off to them for trying, because if you don't try, you'll never know, and they have nothing left that they can do. They at least have to show their fans and their pieces in good faith that we're trying. So this is where they trade up and make that move with the Broncos.
Interesting spot for the Raiders here, obviously. I think the quarterbacks that they want will be gone, and I just don't get the feeling that they're going to trade up to get somebody. Tom Telescu didn't do that for the Chargers, so I can't imagine he's going to suddenly change his mind now and give up the farm for J.J. McCarthy or someone like that. So I think the Raiders play it safe here, and I think maybe they target Bo Nix or potentially trade back up in the very late, first round or early second round. These are things I could see happening. But when they're in this position, I'm not a Cooper DeJean guy, personally. I love Nate Wiggins, and I love Terrion Arnold, too. And the Raiders have a big need, at the cornerback position to fill it in. But even worse, they need an offensive lineman, and I think that they're going to go for Fuaga. Now, this guy played on the right side of the line last year, if I'm not mistaken, but the Raiders need that desperately. The left side of their line has been filled out. It's decent. It's actually pretty good. They re-signed Andre James. Colton Miller is like a top 10 left tackle, and they have the left guard position filled out too. Now, it's not the most exciting pick, and obviously a lot of Raider Nation would be upset, but anytime I feel I can get a player that's going to be on my team for 10 years, it's so hard to pass up. I mean, he's right there. This guy's, in my opinion, a surefire starter for a very long time, a high-end starter. And the Raiders can go and get, their quarterback in the second round at this point because all the extremely hungry QB teams got their quarterback already. There's less pressure on you. If you feel so badly later on, you can trade up, like I said, in the later first or early second. I'm not even that worried about it. I think someone will fall to them in the second round at this point if the draft fills out like I think it will.
Michael Penix Jr. Michael Penix Jr. I mean, I can't now. I've been standing on this, and now I cannot not stand on it. I just can't. Guys, Raider Nation, I want you guys to hear me. You know what I mean? And this is not coming from like a Kansas City Chief place. This is coming from an AFC West place. This is coming from an NFL is better when the Raiders are a good place. This is coming from how long do you have to suffer before you understand that without a franchise quarterback, you're never going to win. That's the place this is coming from. And I believe that, yes, it might be a reach. Yes, it might be early. But, yes, it's the right pick. Michael Penix Jr. played in your stadium and excelled in your stadium as a collegiate athlete in a big game. I have watched this guy's arm. I have watched this guy's legs. I've watched this guy in person. The medicals are 2 years past. You cannot tell me with a straight face that you're okay going into this season with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew as your quarterbacks. I'm sorry. It's a waste of, at this point, it's a waste of talent. It's a waste of talent. You're wasting the swan song for Devontae Adams. You're wasting Jacoby Myers. You're wasting it. You're wasting it. You absolutely have to take Michael Penix Jr. here. I know you need a quarterback. I know you need a quarterback. I know it. Okay? Dude, go get Xavier Howard. Go get Stephon Gilmore. You do not have this pick and not take Michael Penix Jr. if he's still available. And if you do, to me, you're out of your minds. You'll have another 9-win season. You'll be the same old Raiders. You'll probably beat the Chiefs once, and that will be your Super Bowl. And you'll be saying the same thing again next year that you're saying this year. It is time to throw your balls on the table and push all your chips to the middle of the table, kind of like what Kansas City did. And you guys don't even have to move up to do it. The guy has fallen to you out of a parachute. Catch him and bring him home. If you don't take Michael Penix Jr. here at 13, I don't consider you really serious about winning this year.
Well, I hope it does happen. I hope he falls to the Raiders. I think they would take him at 13, personally, if he was there. Now, on to the Saints. I think with the need of defensive linemen, there's just one guy who's a little bit too talented here to pass up on. And it's kind of a flip-flop, to be honest with you. It's Byron Murphy and Jared Verse here. Yeah, I really like Jared Verse, but if they need an interior defensive lineman, then Byron Murphy's the guy. I mean, in terms of being able to pass rush through the middle, that's impressive. You just don't see that a lot. It reminds me a lot of Kalijah Cansey from last year. They feel very comparable to me, where they struggle in the run a little bit, but when it comes to like having open field and you're an interior defensive lineman and you can get off the quarterback on a passing play, they're both like very skilled in that. And I just think with Dennis Allen there, I feel like they're going to be a little bit too tempted not to take a defensive-minded guy and kind of shore up that defensive line. And I think it would be a big addition for them. Their defense is always good, and this would make it like significantly better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they're going to go that way, though. I think that they have to start considering their line. The line is getting a little long in the tooth. Guys like Cesar Ruiz are kind of falling apart. I like Olu Fashanu, the tackle from PSG.
Yeah,
Look,
me
you know,
too.
like Trevor Penning really struggled at left tackle for them. And it's time to, move him over. I think kind of replace him with a young, hungry stud player. This is a guy that can push people around, no problem. He's got good size. He's got good strength. I don't know. I mean, the lingering knee issues worry me a little bit, but there's no denying the potential of Fazanu. The guy is an absolute house on fire. And like I mentioned earlier when we were talking about Joel, the game is won in the trenches, man. You know what I mean? I know the Saints, they need a lot, but I think you have to be smart here and put the meat on the sandwich, even though you may want to go more of the offensive, side of things, or maybe even the defensive side of things. Your defense is already pretty solid. The game is won in the trenches, and I really like Fajano. Like I said again, I'm not discounting the lingering knee issues. Buyer beware. But I think it is worth taking a chance on him just on potential alone. And I think he'd look good in a Saints uniform, quite frankly. I mean, this is a really strong kid. He's a junior. I mean, Penn State's a decent school. I mean, I like his measurables. He's a good player, and sign him up, man. Who Dat Nation? Be smart here. You're in rebuilding mode. So when I hear rebuilding, I think, well, what are you rebuilding? And rebuild your line.
Rebuild from the trenches, man. That's how you build a good football team.
Guys, you build a good team from the inside out. If you just start getting a bunch of cornerbacks and a bunch of safeties, but your line can't stop anybody, or you can't. I mean, if you start losing both lines in the NFL, you're never going to win. And so I think this is the smart move for Dennis Allen and Who Dat Nation.
Yeah, the Colts are on the clock here, and there's a lot of defensive backs, and I think this is where they go. Like I said, I'm not a big Cooper guy for some reason. I just don't think he's as talented, and I think there's better guys out there. In my opinion, it's a flip flop between Nate Wiggins and Terrion Arnold. We've seen guys in the recent draft kind of reach at the cornerback position. I don't know if Nate Wiggins was super high on a lot of people's drafts. He's high on my draft board. Now, again, I could see Terrion Arnold easily. He does struggle against man-to-man, so it kind of feels weird to take him this early on. So I'm going to go with Nate Wiggins here. I'm actually probably a bigger fan of him than like most people in their box. But like I said, we saw last year a lot of corners got taken way earlier than we ever imagined them to be. Like teams are not afraid to take a cornerback if they feel like he's going to be productive on their team early on.
Yeah, I agree. I have a funny feeling that Nate Wiggins is going to find his way into the Philadelphia Eagles and fall a little bit. This is where I have Cooper DeJean going. I have him going to Indianapolis Colts, even, especially more so now that L'Jarius Sneed has been traded to the Titans. They were in on that. You know what I mean? They were definitely in on that. Now, this guy is just the epitome of a football player. He's a football player. He can do it all. Cornerback, punt returner. You could just throw him out there and be like, dude, go play safety. Like, he is a bread and butter football player. Now, will he fit well in Indianapolis? I think he will, man. I think he will. Solid. He's 21, 6'1", 207. Look, when I think Iowa Hawkeyes, I just think bread and butter white boy football. That's what I think. And that's what they need here. At this pick, you're not going to make some kind of amazing splash. You know what I mean? You're not going to be you're not getting Deion Sanders here. Like, who is a plug-and-play guy. He may not even start, but he'll be a nice rotational piece until he comes into his own.
Yeah, I think they can put him all around the field, too.
Put him. That's the thing. That's the thing that I like about Cooper DeJean.
I could see him playing safety a lot too.
He's a chess piece. He's a chess piece. Guys, injuries happen in the league all the time, and all of a sudden you may have a person playing out of position because he's just not used to being in that spot. You can just throw Cooper DeJean out there and be like, dude, just stick that guy, bro, until we figure it out. Just stay with that guy. Have there already been really solid, D-backs in the league, white guy D-backs? Not really. I mean, Jason Sehorn was solid. You know what I mean? That was a long, long time ago, but I would take a chance on him here, man. I spent 7 weeks in Indianapolis the year they hosted the Super Bowl, and I got to talking to them about their Colts. They love their Colts, man, and got to see kind of how their team operates and how it's run, and Lucas Oil Stadium and all the like. And I think this is a good fit for them, man. Again, it's not the splash. You know what I mean? It's like being hungry and not having like the salami and the turkey, but you got the white bread and you know there's peanut butter and jelly. Cooper DeJean is peanut butter and jelly. That's who he is, and I think they take him there. And last.
Yeah, I think this one's fairly straightforward. I think it honestly comes down to a flip of a coin, at least the way that my draft has fallen when it comes to offensive line. I'm more of a Fashanu guy. I kind of lean towards you. I think in terms of just the way that talent kind of lines up. Yeah, I think that he's probably the best to take here. And I think the other guy goes right next for the Jaguars, which we'll talk about next time. Fashanu and Futu. I mean, the names of this year's draft are too funny. I get them mixed up. But Fashanu, I think, is potentially like the best offensive tackle in the draft. Like you said, there's just injury concerns, and that can be a big problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always problematic. You have to watch that. But it's kind of like with Penix, man. You're worrying about the stuff that you have no control over. But again,
yeah, any guy can get injured at any time.
At any time in the NFL, anyone can get injured at any time. And I think.
Hey, how about what about Michael Porter Jr. for the Nuggets? He fell all the way to them because everyone said he had an injury history,
and he
just helped them win a championship. So
yeah, exactly. So I do agree with the position. Seattle is taking a tackle. You're a running team with a mid quarterback. Running the ball is what you like to do, and so you have to have the beef in there. I already had Fasano going, to the Saints. This is where I take Troy Fontenot from Washington, the offensive tackle. He stays home and he goes after it, man, and they move people around. Okay, look, this guy's combine was fantastic. He's got a 9.5 broad jump. His 40 is 5. For offensive tackle, that ain't bad, dude. That's not bad at all. 6'4", 317. He fits the profile. He's a Washington, Seattle Seahawk type of kid. This is who they go get. A lot of these teams, if they have the comp that they're looking for out of a player and he's a local kid, they're going to bring him home and keep him there. It only makes sense for Seattle to do this. You know what I mean? When you have the run game be such an important part of what you're trying to do, the beef has to be there. And this is a team that understands this. And they got to get younger. They got to get younger, and this is the player that they're going to take. I would be absolutely shocked if this isn't their pick. This is almost as much of a slam dunk for me with the Titans as Joe Alt is with the Titans, because it's a need. It's a good player from a winning winning school. I mean, you can go look at everything that Washington did this year in the Pac-12, and the flash is there from the offensive pieces, but that flash isn't there without the beef. You know what I mean? And so this is the guy they're going to bring in, and I don't see it as being close. So that's the first half of the draft. Spencer and I differed a little bit as far as, trading up, trading down. A couple of our players are similar, but I think that even with both of us guys having different drafts, there's still like another 30, 40, 50 different ways this draft can go. And I do think some surprises will be there. Next week, we'll do 16 to 32. That will be a little bit more tricky because there's a lot more offensive linemen, a lot less flash. But there's some sleeper wide receivers that are going to end up going in the later picks, and I think it might surprise some people kind of what we're thinking as far as where these guys might go. Parting shots. Spencer, let it rip.
There's going to be a lot of guys who fall in the first round because of how heavy of a quarterback and offensive line draft there is. And it's going to be really interesting to see who is able to capitalize on that. It doesn't happen very often. Normally, it's like maybe 1 or 2 quarterbacks per year, at least what we've seen recently. It's usually like 1, 2. I think we could see 5. And when you do that just naturally, especially when you have a lot of starting offensive linemen, there's so many other positions on a football team, And I just think the best of these guys who normally would go in the top 10 or top 15 you're gonna see him in the 20s, and it just depends on what team that kind of captures that the most. And I think
Mm.
you can see a lot of people trading up in the late first round. I think there's going to be a lot of trades in the first round. There's just a lot of chess pieces. I don't see a lot of all pro talent in this year's draft, but I see starters that are going to be around for like 7, 10 years on a team. And that's almost as valuable as having an all pro. It really is.
Yeah, I think that we're going to see some situations where guys are going to have their hearts set on a guy, but it's going to be best player available because there's going to be a guy there that they're not even interested in, but he is so good that you just
Yeah.
have to take him. You know what I mean? And there's going to be a lot of, well, we don't want the Chiefs to get that guy. So you know what I mean? There's going to be, I'm telling you guys, there's going to be some of that. There's the Bills. If there's a player that the Chiefs like and the Bills are there, the Bills are taking that player. They're taking that player. People are going to gear up to stop Kansas City in this draft because there's so much good talent that if the Chiefs end up getting like an Adonai Mitchell or a Xavier Worth, dude, it's game over. It's game over. And they may even take an offensive tackle if you want to snatch those guys up. That's how loaded this first round of the NFL draft is going to be. And so I think everyone's getting a good player. It's just really based on need. My parting shots are for people who have an issue with this L'Jarius Sneed trade. Came in late last night. I thought he may play on the tag because there was really no movement happening over the last couple days. But they finally move him for a 3 and a 7 swap for 2025. Look, you casuals, man, you got to stop. You have to understand how the NFL works. It's a business. You can't keep everyone.
Nope.
You cannot keep everyone, man. Look, the Patriots were notorious for not paying people and letting them go. Who was the dude, if you can remember? I can't remember who he was. He led the league in sacks and then got traded to Arizona off the Patriots.
And I think he came back afterwards.
I mean, we're not paying you. We were not paying you. So you want to go get your money, go get your money. Now, he gets, 3 years, $74 million, I think. 4 years, $74 million, $55 million guaranteed for Sneed. Dude, no one knew who L'Jarius Sneed was 2 years ago except Chief fans. Guys, stop acting like this guy is Dion. Stop. Let him go to the Titans where he'll never win a thing. It doesn't hurt the Chiefs. The Chiefs aren't playing the Titans in the AFC Championship. Go. L'Jarius Sneed had a great career year. Let me tell you something. The walk year is undefeated in the NFL, Spencer. If it's a contract year, just bet on that guy. Because at 26, 27 years old, the guy wants his money. So let him go get his money. The Chiefs are getting now $20 million that they didn't have yesterday, and they're going to go shopping right before the draft here. Dude, Xavier Howard may come in. They may pay their tackles. They had nothing. They had no money. And Brett Veach is notorious for finding DBs. You found Sneed in the 4th round. They got Nick Jones coming back, Joshua Williams. I mean, they are going to be fine. Everyone needs to take a deep breath and relax. The guys are the same people that told me that the Chiefs were going to be lost without Tyreek Hill, and they went and won back-to-back Super Bowls. You casuals don't understand the business side of the NFL. Let someone else pay for the guy that you just sucked dry, who's got medicals, that may be flaring up on the other side. Let someone else worry about that $55 million. It's not our problem anymore. We got the ring. One player at that position is not getting paid. The Chiefs didn't even want to pay Eric Berry. And you're crying to me about L'Jarius Sneed? Guys, stop. Stop. You have to understand how football works. It is a business first. And a guy like Sneed, who we found in the 4th round, can be found again. Take that money and get ready to pay guys who deserve to get paid. You still got to pay the line. You got a couple linebackers you got to pay. Guys, stop. You can't be such prisoners of the moment and be so emotionally invested in players. That's what they are. And they want to get paid and deserve to get paid. Doesn't mean we're going to pay them. It's so hard to three-peat. It's so hard to win one. The NFL is designed to make it harder for you every year. And even with the cap going up, you can't keep everybody. I mean, we've done everything we could in Kansas City to keep L'Jarius Sneed. If you don't want to play on a 19-8 tag, go to Tennessee and enjoy the music, bro, because we're going to replace you, and we're still probably going to, at least at worst, make the AFC title game because now we got money to spend. Rant over. World of Matchups is in the house, folks. This is what we do. Next week, 16 through 32, we'll break it down. We'll give you guys our thoughts on who's getting drafted where. Stuff changes throughout the week too, Spencer. I may have to
every day. It feels like
I might have to redo my 16 through 32 based off what might happen this week. You just don't know. Guys get brought in, guys get released, guys get hurt, and all of a sudden, like, wow, I got to change my pick. But I'm pretty solid on 1632. I know you are too, and we'll bring it to the people next week. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for subscribing, liking, keeping it real, and we will be back next week. On behalf of World of Matchups, I am Dexter Reed, and that is Spencer the Wiz, and we are out.
See ya.